Welcome to the Health Coach Nation podcast. My name is Hailey Rowe, and I'm a sales and marketing coach and LinkedIn lead generation service provider. I work with health, life, and mindset coaches and online service-based business owners to help them get more sales, shift their time to the client-generating activities instead of just the busy work, and overcome that social media overwhelm. Let's get into the show.
System that is called Launch Flow, and she loves helping people with their launches and how to write the copy that captivates your ideal clients. And so, first of all, welcome, Danielle. Why don't you just share a little bit about yourself and how you got into what you do, and then we'll go into the launch flows.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me. So, my background is in copywriting. I've been a copywriter for 20 years, almost 20 years now. And I've been behind the scenes on some pretty big 7- and 8-figure launches, funnels, really making millions of dollars behind the scenes with words that I've written for my clients. And then I have since transitioned, while I still do write some copy behind the scenes. One of my favorite things to do is actually help business owners who are still kind of writing it themselves or figuring it out themselves, figure out their messaging and launch strategy so that they can find the flow that works for them when it comes to launching and get that confidence and clarity.
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes to messaging, I think a lot of people really struggle with that because they wonder, am I going to scare people away if I'm too specific, or if I'm too vague, nobody's going to want it? So when it comes to messaging, what's your philosophy on what's super important when you're planning a launch and when you want your message to captivate and lead to sales?
I think first of all, it starts with what your goal is. So a launch will look very different if you are selling hundreds of $1,000 course or a $2,000 course versus whether you're trying to fill your one-on-one coaching spots and you want to fill 10 spots in your coaching package, and that's a high ticket. They're just going to look different in terms of launches, and the messaging will shift based on what your goal is. In terms of, the first thing to figure out is, what do I want to do here? What is it that I'm launching? How do I want to launch it? And then I always advocate for being really, really specific, either with the person that you're talking to or the problem that you're solving. And so if you don't necessarily want to niche down into a specific person, a specific avatar, you can get really specific about the problem that you're solving. And you could potentially have different buckets of people who are all having that problem.
For sure. Okay. Yeah, I've talked about that before, but one of the things I hear people say when I say that is, so okay, let's say they're just a holistic health coach and they help with energy, I can help with so many different things. I can help with digestive issues, skin problems. What would you tell that person as far as, improving their message to not just be a vague, like, I help you with these kinds of things?
So that's where the concept of a narrative comes in. And that's where I talk about nailing your narrative. And this is really the thread that ties your entire launch together. Once you have this story in the specific framework that I teach, you're able to use that becomes the linchpin of your launch but the way that you talk about your business and what it is you do. And so first, there are 4 parts to it. So first, we talk about the problem, the specific problem that we're solving. We meet our clients where they are and we describe the problem to them, right, better than they can articulate it themselves, to the point where, oh, this person completely gets what I'm going through. And then the second piece is story. It's, why are you the one that's qualified to solve it? How have you helped other people solve it? How have you solved it for yourself, or both? And so being able to tell that story in a way and really own your story. We're kind of, I think, taught not to brag or market ourselves or be salesy, but really, if you have those results, talk about those results in a way, because you are doing your ideal clients a service. And then the third piece is the discovery. And this is where I think when we decide, okay, what do I specifically talk about? What problem do I specifically solve? This is where you can get really specific about what it is that the transformation is. This discovery piece is, what do most of your ideal clients don't understand that is ultimately causing their problem? What is ultimate, like the one thing that they don't get, that nobody's talked about, that nobody's told them, that they haven't realized, that that is going to change everything for them. And that is the discovery moment. That is where minds get blown. That is where people go, oh, I did not know that. Now I understand why this has been happening. And what that leads to is the solution. Okay, now that you know, what are you going to do about it? And that is where you get into your specific framework, your specific process, your unique way of solving the problem that is different from everyone else, that allows you to say, here is the way that I've combined these specific elements, my secret sauce, to solve this problem in this specific way. And so when you put those 4 pieces together, that narrative allows you to build a bridge from where someone is to where you want them to be.
Amazing. Yeah, because really at the root, everyone's wondering, can you help me solve my problem? And if they don't see that that's possible, or they don't see how you're qualified, or they don't, have that discovery moment, they're probably going to think, you can't help me, and this is not for me. So what are your thoughts on when someone says, well, yeah, okay, but I'm not different. I'm not standing out. My discovery thing is something that a lot of people talk about. What would you say to that?
So I would push back and say, yes, and there might be other people doing similar things. If you're certified in a specific methodology, or if you have a specific certification that you're following, that might be one thing. But I almost guarantee that if you dig just a little bit with the right questions, with having an outside perspective, there is a way that you approach things that's unique, that's a little bit different, that's not the way that everybody is teaching it. And even if there's someone that does something similar, it's okay. And often naming the problem or naming the solution is what allows us to get that edge of discovery, right? That moment of difference, that moment of, oh, I don't get that. I did not know that. It also depends on how sophisticated your audience is, but I feel like that's a different conversation.
Yeah. And that's actually a good point. Like, you got to know who you're marketing to and what stage they're at, because that is going to change how you communicate the offer, right? So, for example, I work with a lot of beginner health coaches, so I might be talking about, getting clear on your message and your first offer and that kind of thing, versus, a different offer like my LinkedIn lead gen services is for somebody who's a little more advanced. So I'm not going to be speaking to the same pain points. So would you say that you can talk to a more advanced market, but you just have to change the way you're communicating about it? Or what kind of things should you consider if, like, let's say, you're like this gut health topic. Some people don't even know what gut health means, right?
Right.
So how do you navigate or decide that?
So in any audience, you're going to have your unaware people, the people who, like you said, don't even know that they have a problem. They're suffering symptoms, but they don't connect it. They don't realize, like, oh, there's something wrong. But if you went to them and say, hey, are you feeling tired? Are you feeling low energy? Or suddenly they go to a doctor's appointment and they, get some bad blood tests, and suddenly they are aware that they have a problem. That's your unaware folks. Then you've got your problem aware people who know, yeah, I have all these things going on, but I really don't know what to do about it. I have this problem. And that is where you can educate. That is where you can meet them with oh yeah. And the reason that you're having the symptoms is not because you're tired or not getting enough sleep or you're under enough stress. It's actually what's happening in your gut microbiome, because that's where you can educate and build the bridge there. And then for your problem aware people who are like, yeah, I'm on top of this. I've heard this before. I am just looking for the right coach to help me. That is where your messaging needs to be even more sophisticated in terms of the way that you help them. And that's where you think, okay, so what is different about the way that I'm solving the problem as opposed to other gut health solutions? So maybe it is the fact that you are available on Voxer for them. Maybe you're creating a custom supplement package for them. Maybe you're creating a custom diet plan. Maybe your approach is a little bit different. So what is it that sets you apart for the people who are already looking for the solution and just making the choice, like, is it you?
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so now I want to, let's say they figure out their message, they're feeling really good about it. Now it's time to launch. You talk about launch flows. What does that mean? And maybe give us some examples.
Sure. So to me, launch flow, and it's one word, and I write it as one word, and I trademarked it as one word because I really think it is the balance of those two things. A launch, I think a lot of us tend to think of a launch as something that's stressful, overwhelming, maybe a little scary, like okay, I have to launch and there's all these moving pieces and oh my gosh. And while that might be true, if you're approaching it that way, I tend to look at it from the frame of, wow, you have the opportunity now to get a huge amount of momentum in your business. You have the opportunity to go put the megaphone around what it is you're doing and reach a whole bunch of people in a big way, build your list, get a whole bunch of buzz. I mean, there's a reason that movies still launch, right? There's a reason that iPhones still launch. Launches work. They give you a powerful persuasive lever. But there's also the flow piece. There's also am I doing this in a way that feels good? Am I doing this in a way that fits my strengths? That allows me to show up with confidence as my best self? Am I doing this in a way that feels good and doesn't burn me out? And so they always kind of go together, and finding that balance is what I think launch flow is all about. And that's what allows you to get the best results.
I love that. Okay. So, do you want to give a couple examples of some of the different types?
Sure. So there are 5 launch flows. And in my experience, I looked at all of the launches that I had been a part of, from the smaller launches to the big 7-figure, big launches that we were doing behind the scenes. And they all had these 5 things aligned. And the first one is cash flow. Are you selling the right offer at the right price? And that is really the first thing that I'm thinking about is your offer right? Are you selling the right thing? The second flow is lead flow. Are we talking to the right people? Are we calling in the right people to this offer? Are we getting enough leads into this offer? And is our messaging resonating with them? And then the third flow is idea flow. Do I have a really strong narrative? Am I using the right launch strategy for me? People will talk about the different ways to launch with a challenge or a workshop or a podcast, there are lots of different ways to market. Are you picking the one that makes the most sense for you? And does it feel good? Is it allowing you to showcase your skills? Idea flow. Fourth one is workflow. This is the one that kind of is like the boring one that gets overlooked, but being behind the scenes can make or break your launch. Is like, do you have enough time to do everything? Do you have your metrics and data organized? Do you have SOPs in place, perhaps? How is stuff running behind the scenes to make it look really smooth on the stage of your launch? And then the fifth one, I think, has elements of spills through into all of them, which is energy flow. How are you showing up? How confident are you in your offer? How are you allowing yourself to rest and manage your own energy during your launch? How are you managing your mindset around it? And are you giving yourself the rest and reward just for doing the thing? And this is underneath everything, the thing that can make or break your launch. Because if you are confident in what you're doing, it shows. People feel that. It resonates, and everything else that you're doing will be more successful as a result. So those are the 5.
I love that. Yeah. And I think a lot of people miss the energy flow part. Like, it's just, I need better ads, or I need better launch and webinar or whatever. But if you are exhausted and you're not connected to the message and you're not even passionate about it, anymore or things like that, it is going to show and transfer into your launch results. So I think it's really cool that you incorporated that. Now, with the thing that I would love to know, like, what's maybe when you talk about different types of launch, like you could do a Facebook challenge, you could do a webinar, you could do whatever. What's maybe one that's not super conventional that you've gotten to see, or that's super fun, or anything that might help someone just kind of think outside the box a little bit about, you don't have to just do the standard webinar or something like that?
Sure. I think when we think about a launch, we tend to think about specific things, but I want us to think wider about it as just a time-based marketing event, right? Okay, so it has a beginning and it has an end. And the channels that you pick, the conversion events that you pick, can be as varied as, I'm just going to send some emails. I am just going to do some personal outreach. I am going to do a big summit, live event, challenge, whatever. And the general rule is, the bigger your audience, the more complex your launch may be, right? So and the higher ticket your offer, the simpler you can keep your launch. Actually, what I'm seeing that's working, and again, if it doesn't resonate with you, don't do it. If it's not in flow, don't do it. That's always my rule. But what I'm seeing work really well is a lower ticket paid event, workshop, course that then leads to the main program, whether that is a 3, 4, 5K, 6K program or package, right? So giving someone a taste of what it's like to work with you. And that just, again, works in general, but it's working particularly well because I think free workshops and events, we're just so inundated, we're so busy that it's much harder to get an hour of someone's time than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so putting that low ticket paid barrier in front of something, or having it be asynchronous, is a great way to get them exposed to your message, your education, what it is that you do, get them to feel those quick wins and that transformation and be excited for the next thing.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. And yeah, I think taking the pressure off of it. I think so many people have these definitions of launches, like you said, that are so much more complex than just a time-based marketing event, right? So, yeah, and one of the other things you mentioned in your 5 launch flows was the lead flow thing. And I think a lot of people might say, oh, I want to do a low ticket thing and then upsell a bigger thing. But they have like 2 followers on social media and they're like, I have no leads to go to this event. So what would you say to them if they're just starting with lead flow? Anything that's worked really well for you to grow your leads, or thoughts on that?
Yeah. So if you have a small audience, you can still launch. Meaning general rule of thumb is, if you have a group of a couple hundred people somewhere, you can launch. Generally, your first launch is going to want to be really, really simple and has a lot more personal outreach to it. So, for example, a post on social that is sort of a hand raiser post, doing the type of outreach that you talk about, whether it's on LinkedIn or Instagram, making connections with people, saying, I've got, 5 spots for my one-on-one work, and having conversations. At the same time, bringing new leads into your business. And there are really a couple of main ways to generate leads, whether either you're going to pay for them, so you're going to do paid advertising, you're going to do partnerships or collaborations, meaning you're going to borrow someone else's audience. There's organic, whether it's social or direct search or SEO, like people are just going to find you organically. And again, there's like networking, a couple of others, but those are the main ones, right? So you have to decide where you're going to put your focus. What is going to be the combination of your lead flow? Yeah. Where are people coming from? And something that I think this is how we connected, actually, is I participate in giveaways and bundles. Mm-hmm. And I love doing that. And I think that's how we connected in the first place. And that has been, so once you find those 2 or 3 things that work for you, it's a matter of sticking with them.
For sure. Yeah. And one of the things I help clients with is like which makes the most sense for where they're starting from, what they want to do, their strengths. Like some of my clients do a ton of local marketing. And that is where they start. And it's less about posting and less about, social media. But local can be something, I think, too, that's underlooked and undervalued when really you could be a big fish in a small pond if you do a local event or partner with someone in the community. So this has been super helpful. Thank you for all these awesome tips, Danielle. Is there any final words of wisdom you want to say to someone who's like, I want to launch, I need to get my next clients. I'm so overwhelmed. Anything you would tell them?
Yes, because that is, I think what I want to normalize is a launch does not have to be something big and stressful. It can just be a way for us to experiment with our marketing and have that built-in lever of urgency and scarcity. That's it. We have it. It's available to us. Why not use it? And always pay attention as you're doing that launch to what lessons can you learn and implement for the next time. Because it's not just about doing one launch. It's about refining as you go. And if the first launch does not go the way you want, there's always the next one. But what I would say is reward yourself no matter what. Just for doing the launch, decide what your reward is going to be, whether it's a spa day or a nice dinner out or a morning off or time, whatever it is, give yourself that reward just for doing the thing.
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, because we can't always control the outcomes all the time, but we can control what we do, which is the launch itself and giving it your all, and then how you reward yourself and celebrate. That's super fun. And I love what you said about it's not a one and done. You're going to always be refining your launches, and the evaluation process after that is so crucial. So you're not just rushing right into the next one without learning anything from the first one. So thank you for this. Where can people connect with you?
Yes, connect with me on LinkedIn. You can go and get my launch flow roadmap, which actually breaks down to the 5 flows, dwcopy.com/roadmap. And you can go get it there. I'm sure we'll have the link somewhere, but go download the roadmap, which will actually break down each of the flows in more detail with practical steps for you to be able to launch.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much for listening to this podcast, and if it's really helpful for you, I'd really appreciate if you share it and or leave a written podcast review. This tells the podcast sites that our show is useful, and it will be promoted to more people that way. Thanks again.